The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Robert Louis Stevenson. Chapter 2, Search for Mr. Hyde. That evening Mr. Utterson came home to his bachelor house in sombre spirits and sat down to dinner without relish. It was his custom of a Sunday, when this meal was over, to sit close by the fire, a volume of some dry divinity on his reading desk, until the clock of the neighbouring church rang out the hour of 12, when he would go soberly and gratefully to bed. On this night, however, as soon as the cloth was taken away, he took down a candle and went into his business room. There he opened his safe, took from the most private part of it a document endorsed on the envelope as Dr. Jekyll's will, and sat down with a clouded brow to study its contents. The will was holograph, for Mr. Utterson, though he took charge of it now that it was made, had refused to lend the least assistance in the making of it. It provided not only that, in case of the decease of Henry Jekyll, M.D., D.C.L., LL.D., F.R.S., and Amp.C., all his possessions were to pass into the hands of his friend and benefactor Edward Hyde, but that in case of disappearance or unexplained absence for any period exceeding 3 calendar months, the said Edward Hyde should step into the said Henry Jekyll's shoes without further delay and free from any burthen or obligation, beyond the payment of a few small sums to the members of the doctor's household. This document had long been the lawyer's eyesore. It offended him both as a lawyer and as a lover of the sane and customary sides of life, to whom the fanciful was the immodest. And hitherto it was his ignorance of Mr. Hyde that had swelled his indignation. Now, by a sudden turn, it was his knowledge. It was already bad enough when the name was but a name of which he could learn no more. It was worse when it began to be clothed upon with detestable attributes, and out of the shifting, insubstantial mists that had so baffled his eye, there leapt up the sudden, definite presentment of a fiend. "I thought it was madness," he said, as he replaced the obnoxious paper in the safe, "and now I begin to fear it is disgrace." With that he blew out his candle, put on a greatcoat, and set forth in the direction of Cavendish Square, that citadel of medicine, where his friend, the great Dr. Lanyon, had his house and received him with a welcome. This was a hearty, healthy, dapper, red-faced gentleman, with a shock of hair prematurely white, and a boisterous and decided manner. At sight of Mr. Utterson, he sprang up from his chair and welcomed him with both hands. "Well, what news?" he cried. "What news of good Dr. Jekyll? I have not seen much of him of late." "Indeed?" said Utterson. "I thought you had a bond of common interest." "We had," was the reply. "But it is more than 10 years since Henry Jekyll became too fanciful for me. He began to go wrong in the mind, and though of course I continue to take an interest in him for old sake's sake, as they say, I see and I have seen devilish little of the man. Such unscientific balderdash," added the doctor, flushing suddenly purple, "would have estranged Damon and Pythias." This little spirit of temper was somewhat of a relief to Mr. Utterson. They have only differed on some point of science, he thought, and being a man of no scientific passions, except in the matter of conveyancing, he even added, it is nothing worse than that. He gave his friend a few seconds to recover his composure, and then approached the subject he had in mind. "I suppose, Lanyon," said he, "you and I must be the two oldest friends that Henry Jekyll has." "I wish the friends were younger," chuckled Dr. Lanyon. "But I suppose we are. And what of that? I see little of him now." "It is on your account that I make this visit," said the lawyer. "There is something I should like to ask you. Have you ever met this Hyde?" "Hyde?" repeated Lanyon. "No. Never heard of him since my time." That was the amount of information that Mr. Utterson carried away with him. Time ran on, thousands of pounds were offered in reward, for no one could describe the man's appearance except Mr. Enfield, and by the end of the week Mr. Utterson was aware that he might search for Mr. Hyde in vain. It was a fine dry night, frost in the air, the streets as clean as a ballroom floor, the lamps unshaken by any wind, and a great chocolate-coloured pall lowered over heaven, but the wind was continually charging and rooting these embattled vapours, so that as the cab crawled from street to street, Mr. Utterson was aware of a great number of lamps lighting up the areas of the houses. The lawyer was on his way to the address of Mr. Hyde, and as he drew near to it, he began to be aware of a singular sense of uneasiness. It was a building of a by street in a busy quarter, and was equipped with neither bell nor knocker. The door was blistered and distained. Mr. Hyde's quarters were plainly furnished but clean. There were signs of good taste in the furniture. There was a sense of strange negligence. Mr. Hyde himself was at home. He came out at the lawyer's knock, a pale, dwarfish man, who gave an impression of deformity without any nameable malformation, and who spoke with a husky, whispering voice. He was civil enough, but there was something displeasing, something downright detestable in the man. He had a murderous mixture of timidity and boldness, and he spoke with a sort of sneering coolness. He did not look the lawyer in the face. Mr. Utterson had been prepared for something strange, but the impression was stronger than he had anticipated. "Mr. Hyde, I think," he said. "Mr. Utterson," said the other, taking off his hat and drawing back with a hissing intake of the breath. "I see you are going in," returned the lawyer. "I am an old friend of Dr. Jekyll's, Mr. Utterson of Gaunt Street. You must have heard my name, and meeting you so conveniently, I thought you might admit me." "You will not find Dr. Jekyll, he is from home," replied Mr. Hyde, blowing in the key. And then suddenly, but still without looking up, "How did you know me?" he asked. "By description," was the reply. "Who described me?" "Mr. Enfield." "Ah," said Mr. Hyde, with a flash of anger. "He must have had a good deal to say about me. He is not a man of many words." "I am afraid not," said Mr. Utterson. "But I can be frank with you. I have been learning something of young Hyde's misdoings, and I am very anxious that you should help me clear them up." "And what do you want me to do?" asked Mr. Hyde. "I have a desire to see your face," replied the lawyer. Mr. Hyde seemed to hesitate, and then suddenly, like a man inspired, he opened the door a little way and stood back for Utterson to look in. They looked at each other for some seconds, and then Hyde shut the door in the lawyer's face. "Good God!" thought Mr. Utterson. "He seems hardly human. Something troglodytic, shall we say? Or is it the mere radiance of a foul soul that thus transpires through, and transfigures, its clay continent? The man seems hardly human. And yet there is something that I cannot name in his manner." He walked away slowly, stopping often to think, and when he came to a corner, he looked back and saw Mr. Hyde watching him from the door, with a savage laugh. Then he disappeared into the house. Mr. Utterson pursued his way, thinking of this man with a desire to kill him, and once more came to the door of Dr. Jekyll's house in Cavendish Square. Poole, the servant, answered the door. He had orders, he said, to admit Mr. Utterson whenever he called. The doctor was at home. Utterson was shown into the large, comfortable, old-fashioned hall, warmed by a bright, open fire, and furnished with costly cabinets of oak. Dr. Jekyll was sitting alone, reading. He rose and received his visitor with a cordial smile. There was a large, well-made, smooth-faced man of 50, with something of a stylish cast perhaps, but every mark of capacity and kindness. You could see by his face that he cherished a sincere and warm affection for Mr. Utterson. The two men shook hands, and the lawyer began at once. "I have been learning something of young Hyde's misdoings, and I am very anxious that you should help me clear them up." "My good Utterson," said the doctor, "this is very good of you, but I am not sure that I can make any change. I am in a very peculiar position, and it is one of those affairs that cannot be mended by talking." "Jekyll," said Utterson, "you know me, I am a man to be trusted. Make a clean breast of it in confidence, and I make no doubt I can get you out of it." "My dear Utterson," said the doctor, "this is very good of you. I cannot find words to thank you in. I believe you fully, I would trust you before any man alive, before myself, if I could make the choice, but indeed it is not what you fancy, it is not so bad as that, and just to put your good heart at rest, I will tell you one thing, the moment I choose, I can be rid of Mr. Hyde. I give you my hand upon that, and I thank you again and again, and I will just add one little word, Utterson, that I am sure you will take in good part. This is a private matter, and I beg of you to let it sleep. Utterson reflected for a moment, and then, I will say no more, he said. The two men shook hands, and the lawyer departed.